I just added a mastermind AI to my game Choo Charles, and at this point, I don't even know what it's gonna do. 2 weeks ago, the main enemy, Charles, was as dumb as a brick, but now he can hunt you down and attack you and your train, as well as a bunch of other cool stuff. Alright, so the very first thing that I had to do was to get into the head of an evil, bloodthirsty spider train. If I was a train and wanted to eat people, what would I do? And so this is what I came up with. So basically, Charles will randomly roam around the whole open world map, and as you are exploring the map, you know, driving your train around, getting upgrades, finding resources, talking, you know, doing missions and all that stuff, Charles will randomly attack you, like every 5 or 10 minutes or so. When Charles goes into this active hunting mode, you have to, you know, you can jump on your train, you can either hide from him, or you can gun him down until he's taken enough damage that he will run away and hide to, you know, regain his health. So now that I knew what he would do, I had my second problem, which is I don't know how to program AI. So in UE4, AI is programmed using something called behavior trees, and a behavior tree is like a network of different actions that an AI can perform if certain criteria are met. So because of how I previously set up the movement system, I needed to make some adjustments to make sure that, you know, Charles actually looked decent while he was using the whole new navigation AI system. And while making these improvements, Charles turned into some sort of Lovecraftian god. I don't... And so after that, I started the watching UE4 tutorials for 48 hours straight challenge.
But it basically executes their children from left to right. And these are the...
Yeah, I watched tutorials for like 2 days straight. And yeah, that's basically half of game development, is just watching tutorials. So if you are ever impressed by anything I've done, don't be. So I managed to copy enough stuff from these tutorials to get a really simple movement AI system working, and I kind of got a little bit stuck. Because every single time that I try to add more functionality, everything else would get like 10 times more complicated. And speaking of how difficult and frustrating some of this stuff can be, I want to introduce this video's sponsor, Core, which is actually making this whole game development everything way easier. Core is a PC gaming platform where you can create, share, and play games completely free. You don't need coding experience to even make core games, and there are thousands of free assets that you can use to get started, or you can write your own custom code in Lua. Core has built-in multiplayer so you can publish your game instantly for others to play. Since Core uses Unreal Engine, your game will have high-quality AAA graphics. You can make single or multiplayer games super fast, and developers get a 50% revenue share, which is way more than other similar platforms. Some Core creators have been able to pay their bills, buy their dream cars. You know, you got these Core developers out here with their sick whips, and even quit their day jobs with the help of the Perks program. It's one of the easiest ways to get started making games. It's completely free. You can publish games on their platform super easily. So if you've ever wanted to make your own games and didn't know where to start, this would be a really good place because it takes a lot of the hassle out that you would run into using a normal game engine. So if you want to try making your own game super easily, go download Core from the Epic Game Store using the link in the description, and let's get right back into the video. So anyways, yeah, the AI programming was not going well. It was incredibly buggy. Sometimes Charles would randomly break out into dance. Sometimes he would just go full-on NASCAR, and because of this, I just decided, okay, I just need to take a break from this AI stuff and work on some other stuff. So first thing, I added a health system for the player so that you can take fall damage, Charles can hit you. Also added this fantastic death screen, and still at this point feeling defeated by my inability to create anything resembling artificial intelligence. I just had official stupidity, and so I added a health system for Charles. Because in my last video that I did where I added a bunch of new weapons, I just added the weapons themselves. So I made it so that all of the different guns do different amounts of damage, as well as that hitting Charles in different places will do more or less damage. I added a couple particles and sound effects and animations and stuff when you hit him, and in addition to that, here's something super cool that you guys are gonna like. In the last video, I asked you for weapon name suggestions, and so I used some of them in the game. So I introduce you to the Derailer, which is the default machine gun, Bug Spray, which is the flamethrower, the Boomer, which is the rocket launcher, and Bob, which is the range gun. By the way, speaking of all the guns and combat stuff, later on in this video I'm going to be showing off brand new gameplay footage that shows an actual like combat scenario with all of the finished AI and the guns and weapon damage. It's cool, so stay tuned for that. It was time to reapproach this whole AI system because I'd basically finished all the peripheral systems, and so I made the incredibly dumb decision of saying, you know, screw you, behavior tree, I don't need you, I can just program AI just using blueprints, which is just the normal visual scripting in Unreal Engine. And so I started from scratch, reprogramming all the AI stuff that I had already gotten done in Blueprint, and I was actually making good time. I was making a lot of progress. In a couple of hours, I'd already reprogrammed all the abilities that the original behavior tree had, you know, just walking around, sensing the player, and chasing the player. But then, as soon as I started trying to add any new features, I couldn't get any of that stuff to work. I had a pure infestation of bugs, and after literally an entire day of trying to debug this Blueprint AI system, I went to bed completely defeated. It wasn't very fun. I was not enjoying myself. So I got up the next day and I realized, okay, this is where everything is going wrong with the Blueprint system. And I was kind of starting to realize, okay, the behavior trees, there's actually a lot of stuff that I could fix if I actually learned how these work. And so, for the third time, I reprogrammed the whole system using behavior trees, and it kind of finally started to click in my brain, and I was actually kind of getting the hang of it. So within a day, I finished the whole on-foot AI system, so Charles could run around patrolling the island, he could see the player, he could chase the player, and you could actually hide from Charles, right, if you get far enough away, at which point he would search the area and then leave, going back to patrolling if he didn't find you. Turns out that was just the easy part, because now I had to add a system where Charles would respond differently depending on whether or not you're on foot or in your train. So I ended up spending about a week just getting this system working, making it so that Charles could attack the train, adding a health system for the train, as well as making it so that Charles responds to the sound that your guns and your horn and train make. It wasn't very fun, so I don't really have any footage of that. I don't think you'd really want to watch it anyway. So instead I'll just show you this jump scare I made. Yes, it very amazing. Please stop clapping. So now at this point, it had been just about 2 weeks since I first started working on trying to figure out all this AI stuff, and I had basically the entire system done. And so now before I show you this brand new, cutting edge, never before seen gameplay, I just want to remind you that you can wishlist Choo Choo Charles on Steam. It's currently like the 59th most wishlisted game on all of Steam, trying to get to number 50 right now. So you should go do that, because then you will have officially joined the cool kids club. Be sure to wishlist Choo Choo Charles on Steam, subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to check out Core, link in the description. Go do. I'm making a horror game where you fight a spider train, and in 30 days it went from this absolute mess of a game to a game starring the most Chad spider train you've ever seen. So today I'm gonna show you some of my progress. A couple months ago I was thinking, hey, I need to make a new game, what should I make? And then I was kind of like, spider train? Spider train. That's a great idea, I thought to myself. I figured it'd be cool if the player had their own train. First thing I had to do was figure out how to make a train. So I started out with this really crappy cube that just kind of slips around an invisible track. Quite professional and very cool. And once I had all kind of the boring movement math stuff done, it was time to make some new track art and a new train. So I made this new train in Blender, and it's definitely an improvement, but still like... So I added some new textures and materials and stuff. Now in Unreal, it actually looks kind of decent. Yay. Okay, so at this point, you might be wondering what you're even supposed to do in this game. So the idea of Choo Choo Charles is that you navigate around an open world map in a train. You upgrade that train over time using resources that you can either find or that you can get by completing missions for NPCs, and then you use your souped up upgraded train to fight Charles the evil spider train to the death. So now that you're kind of caught up to speed, let's get back into my progress on this monstrosity of a game. So at this point, the player still wasn't actually able to control the train though from inside, so the only way I could control it was by slapping keys on the keyboard. So I added a lever inside, and I know that this is not how operating a train works. You don't just like slap a lever around, but for simplicity's sake, that's what I went with. But when I first added the lever, it didn't really work, slightly broken, but after a few improvements, it actually worked quite nice. And I also made it so that when you smack the lever like on the metal, it makes noise, so you can donk it. So at this point, you know, things were coming along well, and I'd been working on the game for about a week and a half. But what I didn't tell you is I was trying to get a trailer done by October 1st, because that's spooky season, and you know, if you're gonna announce a horror game, you gotta do it in spooky season, right? So, with a lot of stuff left to do in that next few weeks, I started working on an island, because I needed a map to actually put a rail train system on.
I just bought that private island.
No, but literally, I just bought an island asset. So with my island, I took a screenshot of it, and I basically just mapped out where all the really important locations would be and where the tracks would go. Then I spent the next 2.5 days laying tracks on this island. I laid like over 20 miles of tracks. This took waking up. It wasn't much fun, and it kind of made me want to commit a crime. I just really felt like doing it the hard way. Alright, so another week has gone by. With that island and track system in place, I decided that it was basically looking like too realistic. So I retextured all of the objects in the entire map, so it's like more painterly, like the work of fantastic painterly persons like Picasso or Michelangelo or Michael Jordan. Wait, no, that was a soccer player. So I added those textures, changed up the post-processing and the lighting and stuff, and I actually had a map that was kind of starting to look kind of interesting. So with all the tracks, all the painterliness, you could now navigate through the entire island. Super fantastic. But now we need the big baddie himself, Mr. Charles. It's a few days later. So first thing is I needed a general design. And the general design went through many different iterations, as you can see. Some of them were better, some of them were worse. And the one that I ended up going with was kind of inspired by Pennywise and by his big friggin' mouth. So I modeled Charles's sexy body, and I sculpted his gloriously chiseled face in Blender as well, and it came out pretty darn well, I would say. So I put all that stuff together in Unreal. It was all looking good with all the materials and textures and everything, and now it was leg time. So since I did not want to animate spider legs myself, because that would be very difficult and take a lot of time, I decided to download spider assets to get the actual spider legs themselves, because I didn't want to make those. And then I just said, oh hey, here's a spider, and then I said, oh hey, here's Charles, and I just kind of, I just squished them together. But then to actually get the animations right, I downloaded a plugin that would basically automatically make the spider legs move. I don't really know how all that stuff works. That's why I downloaded it, so it would make my life easier. And it did, because, wait, no. Because then it looked like this. It looked pretty great. So then I did a little bit of extra tuning to get all the movement just right. And before I show you how it looks, because it looks pretty freaking awesome, I want to tell you something very, very secret that you cannot tell to anybody else. Okay, Choo Charles. It's actually on Steam right now. It's not released yet, but you can go and you can wishlist it. Wow, you should do that. It's currently the 92nd most wishlisted game on Steam, and we're trying to get to number 50. Go wishlist it, or else the Easter Bunny will give you rotten eggs. You're walking around through the forest, and suddenly, oh wow, hey, look, a spider train. It's running. Look at those glorious animations. They're beautiful, I know. Wow, look at it. Anyways, at this point, it's like a week until October 1st, so things are starting to get a little more rushed. Now that we had a spider train, obviously we need a way to fight it, so I added a boomstick, a super duper boomer. This is going to be the first of 4 guns. I also added upgrades, so like different armor and wheels depending on what kind of upgrades you get. And I also added a map so you can put waypoints, because the map is pretty big. It is now just a few days until October 1st. I've got a Steam page set up with just some screenshots and other descriptions and stuff, and I'm working on the trailer for the game. Finally, I finished the trailer. I release it on October 1st, the day that I was hoping to release it. So there you have it. Choo Charles is now coming soon on Steam. You can go and wishlist it right now. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. That's it.